Sound is there. Thanks, everybody. FOMC, 2 p.m. Eastern. Let me know where you're tuning in from. We're going to look at the broader market, and we're going to look at crypto. Crypto, much weaker than the broader market the last few days. Little bit of a shift this morning, but nothing significant at this point. All right, first things first, before we get into it, we've got a new ebook, free ebook, Understanding Your Trading Psychology, the types of locus of control, how your mindset affects the trading style, practical steps to change, how to find the right balance for your trading style. Link being posted. I'll wait till you all tell me where you're from. Michigan, Peru, Seattle, Austria, Cape Town, Las Vegas. Strike two. Uh-oh, I've only got one more strike. Here's the link to the free ebook. I'll post it in the comments of the video as well. All right, so we're starting with the NASDAQ, and we got a daily bounce underway. So big time drop over the last few days, broke the high of yesterday, and we know that the most likely scenario is going to be a daily lower high as a result of this bounce, because we have a ton of space for that lower high to form. So we can see here, resistance all the way up there was a little daily lower high. We could see the market bounce another 5%. A lot more than that. We could bounce 8% from here, having already bounced a couple percent, and still be in a daily downtrend. So what we're looking for is obviously the reaction to the FOMC. What matters to me more than the last 2 hours of trading today. So we get the FOMC reaction at 2 p.m. to the written text. 2:30 we get the conference. The last 2 hours doesn't matter as much to me as Thursday and Friday, because that's when real money is going to be able to move. Real money, and I'm talking big money, is not trying to position itself in that last 90 minutes. Definitely some big money is, which is why we see very significant volatility, but we're going to be looking for Thursday and Friday to dictate the direction of the reaction. Because far too often we see a reaction the last 2 hours of trading on Friday or on today, Wednesday, and then it reverses significantly over the following couple of days. So what the market is looking for, we can anticipate more volatility than usual, this FOMC reaction. Why is that? Because there are previous meetings where the market is pretty darn sure, 90%, 95%, what size hike we're going to get. And the market is then just looking, okay, are we going to be dovish or hawkish with the language and how Powell speaks about the future, the short-term future. And where we're heading into today, we've got a split. And the market is not really sure if we're going to get 50 basis point hike like they said, or 75 because CPI inflation numbers came in higher than anticipated last week. So a lot of the market is positioning for 75, and a lot of the market is positioning for 50. You go down the list and look at all the big banks in terms of what they are anticipating, and it's a fairly even split as far as 75 to 50. So I anticipate a bit more volatility than normal because the market is unsure. If something is a 50-50 probability, that means half the market is wrong. If something's a 95% probability and it happens as the 95 anticipate, that means 5% is wrong. So there's a lot more adjusting that has to be done when it's more of an even split as far as what the anticipation is. So we know 2 p.m. is going to see volatility. What the reaction is going to give us is either a daily bear flag and a bearish reaction to end the week to fresh lows and a fear-laden weekend, or a bullish reaction that sees bounce follow through and eliminates a daily bear flag as a possibility. The goal for the bulls, as we know, we measure retracement sizes to help gauge probabilities. And just going from the high of that last bounce, these bulls want to see another leg up to get to the 50% retracement to create space so that when we do top out, it's possible the bulls can shape up a daily trend change. We know the burden is on the bulls. We're in a weekly downtrend hitting fresh lows. We're in a daily downtrend with lots of space for the lower high. So all we're doing here is patiently watching to see what the size of the bounce is. Patient bears are waiting for a daily lower high entry. And the most probable scenario in the market is for a daily lower high to be the result of this bounce. I don't know where the daily lower high is going to form. That's part of the details that I look for on a daily basis, but we know that lower high is most likely. In the short term, heading into the meeting, we just saw a V-shaped bounce for the NASDAQ, and we're testing the high of the day. Hourly uptrend intact. QQQ setting an hourly higher low compared to yesterday levels. Why is my keyboard not working? There we go. Actually, we didn't even consolidate enough for an hourly higher low. Bottom line is bulls have short-term control with the FOMC an hour and a half away. So checking in on Bitcoin, I headed into this morning saying if Bitcoin breaks 20,000 and if Ethereum breaks 1,000, I am going to start aggressively scaling in because we are in extreme enough fear that that's where I look to go aggressive. And we bounced off those levels, and so that shifts my game plan a little bit to just be patient because those levels did not break. As I've said many times, when I like playing oversold bounces, my aggressiveness matches the bears. We already know we're crushed on the daily and 12-hour RSI levels. The 4-hour is not. The hourly is not. So that keeps me patient. The only time I'm going aggressive is if the longer-term RSI levels are crushed and the shorter-term RSI levels are crushed. I need the hourly, the 15-minute, and the 5-minute crushed as well. Because why I go aggressive in that scenario is because I can anticipate, even if I'm wrong, that this is a bottom to see a daily bounce, I'm probably going to be right that it's a bottom to see at least an hourly bounce. And that's where my scaling in and scaling out comes into play, where I can then look at the potential of seeing an hourly oversold bounce, scaling out partial position, lowering my break even, sticking a stop under the low. Ideally, if the bulls change an hourly trend, I continue to ride the rest of the bounce position that I have remaining. If we fail and drop to a lower low, I can limit my risk a good bit. But to have confidence that a short-term bounce is coming, I need to have those short-term RSI levels crushed as well. And again, in this fear environment, we know obviously that RSI can get more extended, just like price can get more extended than we anticipate. How Bitcoin is currently shaping up, the FOMC reaction today is either going to confirm this hourly trend change, shaping up a daily bounce, or we're going to drop down and break 20,000 if it's a bearish reaction. As far as anticipating a bottom, don't know where the bottom's going to be. Could be at 20,000, could be at 10,000. I have no idea. But we're going to see bounces along the way. So the bounce trade that I'm looking for in the short term that may or may not come to me to grab a sizable position, I'm just looking for a daily bounce. And I will anticipate a daily lower high will be the result of that bounce. So even if it's 20 to 24,000, that's obviously a worthwhile 20% bounce. But into the daily bounce, I would be scaling out my bounce position very significantly in terms of being protected, because recognizing essentially I don't know where the bottom is going to be, and so I have to protect in case we see another leg down once daily and 12-hour RSI cool off. Next daily bounce that we see, those RSI levels are going to go right back up towards 30 and beyond and no longer be oversold. So again, fear is when I'm looking to, max fear is when I'm looking to play bounces. If you have any friends that are looking to dollar cost average, stress to them that this is the time to be doing it. And again, obviously dollar cost average is a very different strategy than trading. It's for long-term, no-touch positions where you're looking years down the line. I know a lot of people are looking towards the Celsius liquidation and the AC, AC3 and all that. Those are just, it's worth being aware of those facts. And for me, what that does is say, okay, liquidations mean if that happens, price can drop faster than you think. That's all I need to know. That just affirms the mantra of it can always go lower than you think to make sure that I am protective to a certain degree. But in terms of, on a daily basis, is that being factored into my game plan? The only thing it's doing is making me ensure that I don't get overly aggressive and expose myself to a solid loss by scaling in too early, scaling in too aggressively. And one thing that I personally have done really well has been staying cash for a long time in the crypto space. I mean, if you look at, since the all-time high, the percentage of time that my account has been 90% plus cash, it's got to be 98% of the time. I guess I played some of these bounces, but we'll say 92% of the time. But a daily bounce is due. Doesn't mean we can't drop down to 18,000 first, but we're absolutely looking for a daily bounce in the short term. The stock market is leading the way. We look at our Bitcoin divided by NASDAQ daily chart, which shows us, again, it was a really nice tight range, and this is exactly what bears wanted to see. We saw a broader market that was weak, a stock market that was weak, and crypto just weaker because this pattern broke bear to help us visualize that. And so this pattern is not bouncing, this chart is not bouncing, which shows us that we are remaining weaker than the broader market. We broke the highs of yesterday on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. We're not close to the highs of yesterday on Bitcoin. One little note is crypto-related stocks are trading more correlated to the broader market. Relative strength stood out yesterday compared to even the broader market. MARA and Riot, they were stronger than the NASDAQ and Bitcoin. And you can see their daily bounce is underway with a little bit of follow-through. It's not a convincing bounce, but it's certainly stronger than Bitcoin. So what this is showing us is that we're correlating more to the broader market with these crypto stocks than we are to Bitcoin itself. Coin is a little bit weaker. It caught up. So yeah, daily bounce underway for Coin. Riot's a little bit weaker, not breaking its high of yesterday. Galaxy was a bit stronger this morning. Daily bounce clearly underway. And you look at the low for MARA, and we're currently 15%, less than that, but 13, 12% off the lows. And obviously Bitcoin is not. So the question, again, just to reiterate, I just said a lot, but short term, can Bitcoin confirm an hourly trend change, or are we headed to a $20,000 break? If we change the hourly trend, we play the zoom out game. We will zoom out and we will scout a 12-hour lower high. Right now, we're in a 12-hour stair-step drop where we've set a lower high every single candle for the last 16 candles in a row. That's 8 days of 12-hour lower highs every single candle. So we're looking for a bounce on this time frame and on the daily, but nothing's shaping up unless we get an hourly trend change at a bare minimum. So now our new key resistance level is 21.8 thousand. We've also got a downtrending resistance line if we like those to be our visual guide. I'm keeping an eye on this. Is this a potential falling wedge? I don't really love the support. The support only has 2 touches. I need 3 touches for it to be valid and have any conviction behind it. But the resistance is plenty valid. Look at all those touches. So plenty of resistance. And watching to see, it would be very notable. You know, if we break 20,000 and see 0 follow through, then this falling wedge will certainly be on the table. Checking in on the dominance chart. So the dominance chart is showing us that Bitcoin is dropping harder than the altcoins the last couple of days. And we can see that just quickly going over our list. Number 1, we've got Atom in the green. But if we go down our list here and look at the 4-hour time frames of these altcoins, we're holding the lows. So look at ADA. ADA is holding the low of 2 days ago. Sol, 4-hour tightening range. Mana, DOT, they're all 4-hour tightening ranges, while our weaker coins like Bitcoin and Ethereum keep dropping to lower lows. So very interesting that that is taking shape. And again, that's not the usual way that these kind of moves play out. It's a bit unusual. The usual way is everything's dropping, altcoins are dropping faster, we find the bottom, the altcoins bounce faster, but this is different in terms of the relationship between alts and Bitcoin. And, you know, if you want to speculate and say that the liquidation for Celsius is a target on somebody's forehead and bears are shooting for that target, then it makes sense that Bitcoin would be weaker because they're focusing all their money and energy on trying to see Bitcoin drop down to that liquidation level, and altcoins are not seeing as much downward pressure. Either way, we have nice clarity on 4-hour time frames for a lot of our altcoins. RSI levels have cooled off drastically. We're not oversold on a lot of time frames here. DOT is not oversold on the 12-hour. It's not oversold on the weekly, not on the daily. We're not oversold on any single time frame on DOT right now. So again, that's our reminder that yes, we can go lower. I can look at this and say two things. Altcoins are positioned better for bounces than Bitcoin is right now because we have support levels to be going off of. But if Bitcoin keeps dropping, altcoins definitely can see another leg down. Although for me, just looking at this altcoin space holding up better, it's a little bit of a bullish indication for me. It's not maximum fear. If you got maximum fear, everything is in free fall. The altcoins are down 20% plus. So if I have to take it one way or the other, I take it as a little bit bullish. And again, just looking for daily bounces, and all these altcoins will just be looking for daily lower highs as well. Same thing, is DOT a daily bear flag, or can we bounce more significantly? We know that if we do not get over daily EMA 12 resistances on our bounce attempts, it's an extremely weak bounce and the bulls don't prove a thing. Look at Sol. Sol has been rejecting from daily EMA 12 for the last 7 weeks. And that level is still far away. We can go 25%, no, less than that, 15%. We can go 15% before we even get to that resistance, let alone break above it. So what the bulls really need, obviously, is a notable bullish reaction to the FOMC to see a fast, hard move up to convince some shorts to do some covering. Because right now with Bitcoin's trading action, if I'm a bear, what has Bitcoin done to convince me to cover my short? The answer is not one thing. Every single bounce is an hourly lower high. We're not confirming hourly uptrends. And if I want to be protective of swing trading profit as a bear, just walking down my stop every single hourly lower high. Just walk it down. If we don't break the hourly lower highs, you stay in the trade. So we're going to check in on Ethereum as well. I do still have a small bounce position in Ethereum. When I did the last live stream Monday, I had my position that I entered on this hourly consolidation. Recognized a rising wedge, which I posted on Twitter. So because I saw that rising wedge, I exited a third of my position in some profit. So that dropped my break even down to maybe, I don't know, lower 1100s or so. But it's such a small position that I'm just holding it. Why? Because I'm planning on going aggressive if we see another leg down. It's a small enough position where it's just a starter. I'm playing for a daily oversold bounce as the daily RSI is now in the teens. Again, it's not just one time frame that I care about. It's saying, okay, the daily RSI is this level, and then I look at all the other time frames to formulate my trade game plan. But long story short is, I'm looking to go aggressive for the first time as a bull in the crypto space in months, ideally with another leg down and a little bit more extreme fear. If the trade is going to come to me, that's what I want to see. I want to see that, liquidation, V-shape, capitulation climax to get to a daily bounce going. And so if that happens, if the bounce happens without that particular setup happening, I will have a small position, which pretty much won't be meaningful one way or the other. But if I'm going to make a meaningful trade, the trade has to come to me, and that's my criteria. I need the break of 20,000 and 1,000. It doesn't mean I'm just going to be aggressively entering right then and there. It means I will start, but I'm going to be spacing my orders. And again, I go very in-depth in the YouTube video. If you Google TheChartGuys, how I play crypto breakdowns, I pretty much, as in-depth as I can, describe how I trade bounces like this. And I'm very aware that it is a different macro environment. There is more fear in the air because of the stock market weakness as well. And that's the only reason, you go back in the past, if you give me this setup in 2018, I would be in a half position right now. But I'm only in a 8% position right now, if that, because of all the little pieces of the puzzle and just being extra picky and making that trade come to me if it's going to be what I want. ETH BTC, potential daily bear flag. Bulls have to form a 12-hour high or low to try and negate the bear flag. We have to change the 12-hour trend if this is not going to be a bear flag. And best case scenario would be the US dollar pairings find a bottom and Ethereum leads on the bounce to confirm that trend change. So still keeping an eye on the BTC pairing. It's already started its bounce, but a weak bounce as the US dollar pairings have not found a bottom. All right, what other coins? We got Litecoin holding up well. Again, like these altcoins, Litecoin is sideways. Look at LTC, BTC the last 2 days. That's Sweetie Pants snoring behind me. So we've got a big 3-day bounce on LTC, BTC because it is trading sideways while Bitcoin keeps dropping. But we know if LTC, BTC does not break weekly EMA 12, which has been resistance for months, nothing changes. So watching closely the weekly downtrend and weekly EMA 12 resistances. As far as any altcoins, honestly, I'm really just focusing on Bitcoin and Ethereum to keep it simple. And that's something I've been doing for years, where there are other traders where if they're playing a bigger picture move, they'll have 4 or 5 positions. Nothing wrong with that. I just prefer less so I can be more focused in on just 1 or 2 names as opposed to 4 or 5. But I certainly don't anticipate that Bitcoin or Ethereum is going to see the biggest bounce. I would speculate that, as I've been saying, how GMT and Ape have been some of the weakest names on the way down due to the lack of previous price history and them being the new kids on the block. When there is a convincing bottom in terms of percentages, I think that they will be some of the leaders. And that's just because of how volatile they are. I mean, if we bounce from 3 to 4 on Ape, it's an extremely weak daily bounce, but that's 33% very quickly. But it's tricky because if you're too early trying to play the weaker names for bounces, you get punished because they are weaker names and they drop harder in terms of percentages. So you need to determine how aggressive are you looking to be. And for me personally, Bitcoin and Ethereum are plenty volatile and plenty aggressive enough. In terms of coins that are standing out stronger, again, look at the BTC pairings, but ADA BTC, it is currently at the highest relative strength it's seen versus Bitcoin in the last month. That's impressive. Link stood out a bit yesterday. Potential for a daily lower high on its BTC pairing. Got to keep an eye on that. If it does set that lower high, we'll look for a tightening range. So Sol BTC, a little bit of a bounce going, but certainly not any kind of convincing uptrend. Essentially, what we see now is altcoins holding sideways while Bitcoin is dropping. So our BTC pairings are bouncing. What I want to see is when Bitcoin starts bouncing, who's going to be bouncing faster? So we have altcoins. We know the altcoins that are playing defense better than Bitcoin. But what we don't know is which altcoins are going to be playing offense better than Bitcoin once that bounce gets going. All right, that's pretty much the coins that I want to look at. I know you all want to look at other coins. So I'm now reading the chat room. MSTR, I assume, is doing the same thing as our other crypto names. It is weak bounce. Is it going to be a daily bear flag, or are we going to get bounce follow through? The Fed reaction is going to dictate. And again, we've got history. You know, so many people, crypto's dead, crypto's toast. Look back at history. You don't have to go far to see scenarios where it looked bleak, if not bleaker. And the counter argument that people make to that is, well, it was a different market environment, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, that's true. But we dropped a greater percent in 2017. If Bitcoin were to drop the same percentage this cycle as it did in 2017 and 2018, we would drop down to about 14,000. That's the same percentage drop. What also surprised me that I don't remember is look at how sideways we traded. 4 months of sideways before that cycle shifted. So I'm looking for the potential of a capitulation flush and a bit of a V-shaped bounce to get a daily bounce going. as one possible way that this bounce takes place, but also recognizing that if we're going to put in a longer term bottom, it might take a long, boring while. And that certainly happened in 2019, and it was so boring that I don't even remember it. And then, of course, the CVID dump and bounce was a bit different. And what's very important that I mentioned, but next time we get the daily bounce going, again, I'm not looking to try and nail the bottom. I'm looking for a daily bounce. Because if we bounce and see a 40% retracement on the bounce and we see a 25% gain, it is absolutely possible that this weakness continues slowly. We set a daily lower high, we pull back for a couple days, we bounce a little bit, we tighten up, then we break bear again. That's possible. If the broader market is continuing weakness, it is absolutely possible that that continues to happen. So I'm just looking at it through a very small lens of a very small point in time. There have been times in the past where I do that and then set a stop on a remaining position and then try and let that position play out long term. And that worked well in the bull market, finding those monthly higher lows. So I don't know if I'll do something similar to try and find a macro bottom, but it's also the kind of scenario where, I don't feel like I need to nail the bottom. And the example that I've given plenty of times, but after the post-CVID dump and bounce, Bitcoin was 300% off its low, 250% off its low, and I had no position. And then I went aggressive on a daily equilibrium in the 11 to 13,000 range, and then the move took off. And I made plenty of profit, percentage-wise, at that point. 250% off the low. Now, obviously, we're not going to see, unless things get real ugly and we get down to single digits, 250% off the low would put us at 50,000. So certainly not looking for something along those lines unless things get real extreme. The broader market, in my opinion, is going to dictate when we bottom. It doesn't have to dictate short-term temporary bottoms for short-term bounces, but cycle bottoms, I do believe it does. Which is why I talk about the broader stock market in every video. All right. Do I microdose before trading? No. That is away from the screen time. Hello from Belgium. Any chance we bottom at 20K? Yeah, there's a chance. Doesn't mean it's the most probable scenario, but there's always a chance. We just need to determine what are the more probable scenarios. I wouldn't say LTC is doing something. I would say it is trading sideways while Bitcoin dumps. So again, it's playing defense better than Bitcoin. Is it going on offense? No, it's not doing anything. You show me Litecoin and its chart on its own, there is nothing bullish about this chart whatsoever. All I can say, it is not as weak as Bitcoin. Does it mean that alts holding their lows, that people are front running a possible BTC bottom? I wouldn't make that assumption. I would say that alts are holding their lows because they were more beat up on the way down initially, and they're not seeing the same sustained selling pressure. Again, I think that a more logical scenario is the bear attack on Bitcoin trying to hit certain liquidation levels, and that same bear attack not being present on alts and already reaching bear exhaustion on those alts. Housing market, I'm certainly no expert, but I don't think a slowdown means a crash at all. if it does crash, my trading account is going to shrink and my real estate portfolio will grow, without a doubt. But slow down and crash are two very different things. I mean, even if homes don't appreciate for a year, it's still been a great 3 years. It's the kind of thing where it's like, you know, I have friends that have bought within the last 2-3 years, and everybody's talking about, oh, housing. I mean, if the housing market crashes 25%, we give back a year's worth of gains, which is nothing. I mean, we need a 50% housing crash to go back 2 years ago in many places. And a 50% housing crash would be the economy is burning. So if you bought just before CVID, you've got quite the cushion to work with. She's got some good sleeps going. You also have to keep in mind, again, I made this tweet as well, just like at 69,000, the all-time high, people were obviously calling for moonshots, 100,000, yada, yada. You're going to see the exact same thing in the opposite direction. Bitcoin will find a bottom, and there will be tons and tons and tons of accounts whose target is 10%, 20% lower than what the bottom ends up being. The goalpost keeps moving. It drops down to 20, people are looking for 16. Drops down to 16, people are going to be calling for 12. Drops down to 12, people are going to be calling for 6. And then we'll find a bottom, and that will be the bottom, and there will be tons of people that expected lower, and it didn't go lower. So just be aware that that's the way that the social media world reacts in both directions. Can I go over the claims of why alts are holding on better than Bitcoin? Just look at the charts. We're holding lows from 2 days ago. Bitcoin's been hitting a lower low every day. It's very apparent instantly when you look at the charts. Not watched that interview. That's the other thing. The amount of friends that I have on the sidelines waiting to buy a home, it's almost like, you know, housing prices have been in blue sky breakout, and if they pull back to first hourly oversold conditions, there's going to be a lot of dip buying in those first hourly oversold conditions. You know, I just see my friends on Facebook, you know, the new millennium hopes and dreams is for a housing crash, and then you just got post after post after post, hoping, can't wait, you know, on the sidelines. And there's a lot of buyers out there. They're just waiting. I have one friend in particular that comes to mind that has been looking for a year plus, and he just keeps, just doesn't feel right. He's just waiting. But he's sitting there ready. And again, people like myself, people that cashed in on crypto and took some profits or whatever, you know, if we do see any kind of crash, I'm going to grab a multiple. And I think there's going to be a whole bunch of other people in that boat as well. We'll see. It's going to get interesting. It already has. Definitely paying attention to bonds more. iBonds was my first dip into that world. Greatest lesson learned since entering the crypto space? Prices go insane in both directions. It can always go higher than you think, and it can always go lower than you think. And anytime things shoot up and get euphoric, it's a sign to take profit. You know, I have friends that were posting about crypto on social media that never did, and that was when we were 55 to 69,000. If you find the urge to be really excited about gains, generally it means it's a good time to take a little profit. I mean, think about it. If you took profit too early at $50,000, you're sitting pretty. So that's why I never nail the top. I am always out a decent bit before the top is hit, knowing that when the top is hit, even just a 25% pullback is very easy. The bullfrog. See ya. Tiny homes. I'm down with tiny homes. I'll probably eventually downsize. All right, one more little check-in here. Again, check out that free ebook. I'll post the link again. About psychology. Solid hourly pullback on Bitcoin. Again, FOMC is going to dictate Bitcoin's hourly trend change or break of 20,000 here. Wow, S&P 500 dropped to a lower low while we've been talking. Little B-shaped bounce, right back to support. QQQ failed to break the high of the day. Nice top fishing for bears. All right, I appreciate you all tuning in. I've got to get ready and then live stream the FOMC reaction. I'll be back towards the end of the week to see how it all shakes out with the FOMC reaction. Establish those game plans, stick to them. Definitely a high fear environment. Be kind to each other. It's really easy for people to be on edge in this kind of environment and get into arguments and all that. FOMC is in 55 minutes, and then the conference is 30 minutes after that. All right. Appreciate you all. Be well.